See, the problem with making any list involving Indian horror films is this. For a very long time, there were not many pure horror films made in India as such. Except for the rare gems, which we'll be covering, don't you worry about that. Most of the Indian horror films were hybrids of some sort, with horror coming in only as an afterthought in some cases. See, the movie-going audiences back then were largely still composed of families looking for a fun, yet safe and comfy time, and the horror films of that time had to cater to them primarily. But horror by its nature has to push boundaries to get the intended emotional reaction. However, this need to cater to family audiences combined with the censorship and audience expectations at the time meant that horror films had to work within these limits. But as they say, restrictions breed creativity, and so we have Manichitrathazhu, even 33 years later after its release, considered to be one of the best Malayalam films ever made, not just in terms of horror. Manichitrathazhu tells the tale of Nakulan and his wife Ganga, a modern couple who, against the wishes of their elders, decide to take a vacation at their supposedly haunted ancestral home in rural Kerala, where they seemingly release a vengeful spirit which endangers the lives of everyone they ever cared about. While there is nothing unique or groundbreaking about the premise of the film now or even 33 years ago, it is the way the film is executed that makes it one of the greats. You see, like I mentioned earlier, the film plays along with the whole family-friendly, safe and cozy vibe for most of the film, and like most stereotypical Indian films of the time, it's heavy on drama. It has entire musical sequences, it has a lot of suspense and mystery elements, and like most of the films of its time, it's chock full of comedy. In fact, this film has a lot of humor, with the filmmakers even masking the initial horror sequences with humor to lull the audience into this false sense of safety and security, till around the 40-minute mark of the film, where the horror slowly but surely starts creeping in. And the horror too is not something gratuitous or scary by any means, like most modern horror films. Like I said, in keeping with the audience expectations and censorship at the time, the horror is rooted deep in Indian mythology and is more classy and mature and comes from the atmosphere and mood of the film, and the filmmakers expertly play with it, frequently injecting some humor when things get too heavy and pulling back in on the horror vibes as the movie approaches its ending. In addition to all this horror, the mystery, the thrills and the humor, the film also has room for executing its themes brilliantly as well. Traditionalism versus modernity, science versus religion, and so on, all of which are portrayed on screen in a way that makes the audience think. Very much unlike how most modern films try to push an agenda. There is so much more to the horror of the film as well, but I'll just stop it right now to keep it spoiler free for the two people who are not familiar with the film or its many remakes. Now, all of this is down to a masterfully written script by Madhu Mattam, which perfectly balances mystery, suspense, horror, drama, and of course horror. Unlike something like 13B that I mentioned earlier, the writing here is to the point with no wasted lines and is delivered via realistic, natural dialogue, which is not afraid to get dramatic at times but never gets to the point of being needlessly campy or even cringe. The script is consistently engaging and compelling, whether you can understand Malayalam or if you're using subs as well, and that is mostly thanks to the filmmaker Fasil. Yeah, his dad. No, really, nepotism is good when it works. Anyway, Fasil has done an excellent job in bringing the script to life, and the movie, while it doesn't break the mold of traditional filmmaking as I mentioned, the film does have enough dynamism to look, sound and feel engaging even today. And the performances, how could I forget? The stars, Suresh Gopi, yes, Mr. Palayadimon, don't try to play the fool with me Nigesh for the non-care life, as Nakul and the husband, Mohanlal, our number one megastar as psychiatrist who's assigned to science the entire thing out, Tilagan, Nedmudu Venu, and a whole lot of Malayalam OGs in various supporting roles, but most importantly, Shobana in her national film winning role as the leading lady Ganga. You know what, forget the whole horror tier list thing. This movie is a must watch just for her performance alone. She gives it her all, and her acting is subtle and loud based on what the scene demands of her, and she is simply a joy to witness on screen. We can sit here and argue whether the remakes of Manichitrathazhu are better than the original or not, and you will be wrong by the way, but what can never be argued is the fact that Shobana is the best in playing that character in any of these films. Did I also mention how good her dance sequences are? You know what, this section of the tier list is getting too long, so let me just conclude by saying yes, Manichitrathazhu may be 33 years old, and yes, it may be a product of a time where horror needed to be muzzled, but through sheer mastery of craft and every aspect of filmmaking operating at its highest level, Manichitrathazhu has simply become one of the best Indian horror films ever made. And no, the film is not scary per se, and very much unlike modern horror films, it doesn't rely on shock value, jump scares or violence or gore to get the horror across, so it can be easily recommended to anyone even remotely interested in Indian horror media. Plus, it portrays themes and ideas which are extremely unique to Indian horror and is shot and cut like a typical Indian film in the best possible way. And for all these reasons, Manichitrathazhu is the quintessential Indian horror film peak tier, no doubt about it.